Good morning. I guess really minimal opening statement other than to say we're excited to be playing someone other than ourselves for the first time since December 31st, and our kids are really looking forward to being able to, play in a real game. And the weeks leading up, the first 2.5 weeks of training camp were literally no introduction to Oklahoma. It was just all about going against each other and getting better. And when we started to introduce Oklahoma on Monday, you could tell a new little kind of pep in their step. The kids were excited. Their competitive juices were flowing again, and they, could finally then see the light at the end of the tunnel, which in training camp in those first 2.5 weeks, it's tough to find the light, man. And but they pushed through it, proud of them, and now we're excited to go get ready to play a football game. Questions? Are we doing the whole microphone thing?
Tom, first year you began with unknown expectations. Second year is great expectations. How does this affect you other than the grill you put on during the season? Who are you now and where are you?
We're the same. We're the same disrespected little old American Conference team with a giant chip on our shoulder that the media and everybody might have put us in the top 25, but that's based off of what last year's team did, not what this year's team has done, because we haven't done anything. And since January, when we got back from Christmas break, we have reminded our guys that, from everything from the question mark on their T-shirts to, not referring to last year's team in using we or us. It's always in the past. And so it'll be interesting to see, because I know I have not sensed an ounce of entitlement or braggadociousness or any kind of arrogance from this team, because they've had it beat into them since January that they haven't done anything yet. And, there's no reason for Oklahoma to respect them because anything that Oklahoma has seen of this program has to do with last year. So we got to go out and we got to earn people's respect.
Coach, you needed some players to step up to fill holes on your defense. Did they do what you wanted to do, and have you found those players?
Yeah, excited. Matt Adams has had a great preseason at middle linebacker. Probably never going to replace Elandon Roberts from the kind of face and voice of the team, but Matt's done a great job from a production standpoint. And then in the back end, again, very talented, maybe even a little bit more athletic than the great seniors that left, and Adrian McDonald and Trayvon Stewart and Lee Hightower and William Jackson. But those guys in Khalil Williams, Garrett Davis, Jeremy Winchester, Brandon Wilson, and Howard Wilson have all, if it were a test, they would have passed with flying colors. Now, obviously, you got to go out and do it on Saturday, September 3rd. But all signs point to them being able to do that.
Despite what the media will do this week, nationally and locally about the game, is it much of a challenge for you to make sure your guys understand this game? It's just one game, doesn't define your season one way or the other, because all your goals are intact. How do you view all that?
Yeah, it's a challenge, but it was a challenge that we knew was coming in January, and we've prepared our team for this. And as I've said many times, if we beat Oklahoma, Mike Oresco, our conference commissioner, is not going to jog out to the 50-yard line and hand us the American Conference trophy. We've got to wake up the next day, play Lamar that week, and then 11 days from the Oklahoma game, we got a conference game at Nippert Stadium Thursday night, short week, and against a team that I believe the stat is, I think they're 10-1 in their last 11 Thursday night games, with just last year having dismantled the University of Miami on Thursday night. So it'll be good. I'm not going to discount the fact that, you know, anytime you win a football game, it's really a good thing. Anytime you beat a really good team, it's even better. But again, win, lose, or draw, this game has no bearing on our goals, which are to win the American Conference, because it's not a conference game.
Tom, can you assess Oklahoma? Obviously, they have talent, but can you just give us an idea of the concerns there?
Oh man, how much time you got? They're the third-ranked team in the country for a reason. They obviously lost in the semifinals last year, and went into that with just one loss in their rivalry game, and unbelievable offensive firepower. Everybody wants to talk about Baker Mayfield, and rightfully so. He's a tremendous player, can extend plays with his feet and his brain. But you look in the backfield with Samaje Perine, I believe is how you pronounce it, and Joe Mixon. If there's a better 1-2 punch in the country, you'll have to prove it to me. I mean, those two guys are the real deal. And then you look at wide receiver, and they got, you know, Jeffrey Mead, 6'5". Mark Andrews is, I remember recruiting Mark Andrews. I thought he was the best tight end in the country coming out of high school in Phoenix. And so, you know, he's 6'5", 6'6", unbelievable athleticism. And so, you know, and then you look at the other side of the ball, and although they lost, you know, some of their more productive players in the Stryker kid was an unbelievable producer for him at outside linebacker, the corner Sanchez. But again, this is Bob Stoops. This is Oklahoma. They have recruited at a very elite level, top 5, top 10 classes every year, and you know, they're one of, if not the best coaching staffs in the country, especially when it comes to defensive football. And so, much like playing Florida State, they're going to be better from an athletic standpoint, top to bottom, than we are. So it's going to take our A game and then some, you know, with some purpose-driven players to be able to compete.
And then to follow up on that, these are you mentioned Florida State. We aren't talking about last year's team, but these are the type of games you guys want to be in as a head coach and your players on a regular basis.
It is.
I mean, you want to play something on the line, right?
I like winning.
Right.
So I don't know. I don't know how that model really works anymore, because at the end of the day, you know, until the first year of the playoff, until Baylor lost a late season game, they were in the playoffs because they were undefeated. And, you know, I think winning trumps anything. Is it good to go test your skills against some of the best in the country? Absolutely. But to say that I want to play 2 top 25 teams, non-conference, in one season, and then have to play our league schedule, which last year had 4 teams in the top 25, well, that's a meat grinder, you know. And so it's exciting for the city of Houston, especially having the ability to play that here at NRG, and it's exciting for our fans. But year in and year out, I don't know that that's really the right model to get to where you want to get on a national level.
Tom, to kind of piggyback off of that question, as a outside of the Power Five, though, are those games necessary because of the perception or the schedule that you face within your conference? I mean, last year the Americans did have 4 ranked teams, but for the most part, is that necessary? Because I think I saw a quote where you said that if you guys were to run the table and you beat 2 ranked teams like, you know, Louisville, and if you weren't in, the system's broke.
No, I said if a team from the American Conference. I refuse to talk about us specifically and long-term beyond Oklahoma, but if a team from the American Conference beats the number 3 team in the country, and then late in the year beats another top 25 team in the country and goes undefeated in the American Conference, and they don't get in, yeah, the system's broke. We need to blow it up and start over, because I don't understand how that could happen. I mean, last year, losing to the University of Connecticut might have been the best thing to happen to last year's team, because I think it fueled the fire for the late season run there with the Navy game, the Temple game, and Florida State. But it would have been very interesting conversation had that last year's team beaten the University of Connecticut and finished undefeated with going 4-0 against top 25 teams, which the only other school in the country to do that was Stanford. Now again, I'm not into revisionist history either. History is what it is, but I can't imagine a team, whether it's us or Boise State or Temple or anybody, that you play a top 5 team and beat them, and play a top 15 or 20 team and beat them, and then go through your conference, which will probably have 1 or 2 top 25 teams, and that doesn't get you in the playoffs, and we got to go back to the drawing board.
Tom, I think you touched on this a little bit, but what does it mean to have a chance to showcase your program against a program that has the tradition, the national profile recognition of an OU?
I think that's more for the fans and the alumni than it is for us. Tradition and all that stuff. We're dealing with 18 to 22-year-old kids. You use Baylor as an example. They don't remember when Baylor couldn't win a conference game. They remember Baylor, Robert Griffin, and Josh Gordon. I mean, that's their memory of Baylor, and the same is true with Oklahoma. So for us internally in the program, that doesn't really carry any weight as far as motivation. Last I checked, we had 174 NFL draft picks. I mean, there's some pretty good. We got a couple Southwest Conference championships. There's some pretty good history and tradition here at the University of Houston as well.
And I know it's not something you can control, but with the chatter outside about possible Big 12 membership, do you maybe somewhere deep down inside look at this as somewhat of an audition for your program?
No, because I've been told by the people in charge that it isn't, and I believe them. I trust them. This is that decision. I'm going to say something really smart-ass right now, but I'm not going to. For the another conference to base that decision based on one game's win or lose would be extremely short-sighted, much like a coach deciding not to take a job because of one game, win or lose. For that program too, I think you've got to be that decision has to be a very long-term, far-sighted vision, not anything short-sighted.
Tom, at Ohio State, you obviously had the huge game with the national championship. Here, you had Temple last year in the AAC championship, Florida State in the Peach Bowl. I mean, you've been a part as a coach and OC of huge games. I know this is just one game and it's the start of a new season, but does this feel of that magnitude because of what it represents, number 3 team in the country, everything you built last year, that if you win this game, I mean, this does place this program at a whole other level? How do you rate it?
It's funny, I haven't been asked that, but as you were asking, I was thinking, and it doesn't. And maybe that's because there's not a ring, there's not a trophy, there's nothing on the line. This is an exhibition game for all intents and purposes. And we're going to go out and we're going to try to win the dang thing and play our best. But when you think of those big games, there's something at stake. There's a Western Conference or Western Division championship at stake. There's a conference championship at stake. There's a Peach Bowl championship at stake. Where this one, this first game of the year, there's no trophies, there's no rings, you got to wake up on Sunday and go get ready to play Lamar. So. Doesn't quite have that feel, no.
Coach, over here, a lot has been said about Greg Ward and what's expected of him this season. What are you expecting from Greg this season? Improvement from a vocal leadership standpoint, which I've seen. So there's evidence there that will happen. And then improvement in his overall, the kid he wants more. He wants, instead of Coach Applewhite, I don't want to have to look back if they're playing this front. I want to be able to check it on my own. I want to be, okay, yeah, go for it. And he wants
he wants more control of the offense, and up until this point, he's earned it. And so I would expect to see a guy that's a lot more comfortable behind center. You know, I mean, this is the first time that he's ever, you know, had back-to-back offenses playing the same position. He really had an opportunity this offseason to dive into the offense from a big picture standpoint, and be fun to see him kind of take control of it.
Tom, last season the contributions from the defensive line didn't necessarily show up in the box score, but it allowed linebackers in the secondary to do some things. Do you need them maybe to show up in the box score a little bit more this year, given their experience and talent?
No, I think, you know, again, the nature of our defense is to eat up, you know, the essence of a 3-4 is what you're trying to do is you're trying to use 5 offensive linemen to block 3 defensive linemen. And when you're doing that, now it frees up the linebackers and secondary guys to go make plays. That being said, we are much more explosive, much more disruptive at that position now than we ever have been. So do we need it? No. But would I expect it to show up a little bit more in the box score? Yeah.
Tom, I think we talked last week. You weren't quite ready to name your starting offensive line when we talked after practice. Have you settled on that group? And what kind of test are they going to face? What do they need to do for you in that game? Yeah, Saturday.
Yeah, we'll start Josh Jones at left tackle. We'll have a rotation at left guard between Mason Denley and Alex Fontana. Will Noble will start at center. Right guard right now will be Mac Long. And right tackle would be Natai Rogers. What challenges do they face? I mean, it'll be the best defensive front they play all year. The cool thing is the second best defensive front they'll play all year they've been practicing against since the spring. And so they have had ample opportunity. They're not going to be surprised by the size and speed and any of that by Oklahoma. And they're really good up front. I mean, really, really, really good. Very similar systems in terms of they're going to base out of a 3-4. They're going to put a guy, you know, I'm looking here, you know, a 305-pound guy, head up Will Noble, nose to nose with him, you know, and they're going to put 280-pound guys head up the tackles and try to create disruption in the backfield to free up their secondary level players. So we've got it's a tall order. Again, it'll be the best defensive front that we'll play all year.
Tom, in camp, you had a few areas that you were maybe paying attention a little bit more on with the backup tailback and the slot receiver,
Right.
not looking and reading into the depth chart too much. Did you find some clarity at those 2 positions?
No.
Well, follow up then. Let's start with backup tailback. I mean, do you go with? I mean, I know you were talking about separation. I mean, when it comes down to it, is there now at least a pecking order in terms of, you know, guys that, you know, maybe did that little much more than the other?
Yeah, I think, you know, Mulba missed some time. He was a guy that got a I don't even know if they diagnosed it as a concussion, but he sat out for a few days, and that set him back a little bit because, you know, he's a rep guy that's in the offense for the first time, and so, but, you know, lucky for him, while he was out, none of the other guys really stepped up. So I think if we had to play tomorrow, and Duke had to go down, or Duke went out for whatever reason, that Mulba and Kevrin would probably rotate a little bit with Kalik getting in there a little bit as well.
And with the slot, you had mentioned the possibility at one point Bonner was in there, and then De'Aaron King was getting some work, and then I believe Leday was also another guy. Is there a plan in play? I guess with Samples, is he back?
He's not back. Won't be back for the game. Still going through the concussion protocol. Obviously, Marquez Stevenson
Won't be back for another 5 to 6 weeks, and so it's we were just talking about it this morning. You come in to training camp and you say, okay, what do we got to do? We got to establish ourselves an H receiver. We got to replace the production of DeMarcus Ayers, and you go through a few practices and you're feeling pretty good about where you're headed there, and then basically a bomb blows up, and next thing you know, you went from having 2 that you felt were doing well, and now you're at 0. So Linnell will start the game. Linnell Bonner will start the game. Obviously, not doesn't quite possess the explosiveness, for that position that we need to do some things. For others, he's great. I mean, you put him out there, he is strong as heck, and he's going to have to block an outside linebacker, and feel a lot better with him doing that than De'Aaron King right now. So you'll see those guys kind of, rotate around a little bit, because De'Aaron is a fantastic playmaker too. Obviously, he's just now learning the position, and that's a difficult position in our offense to learn to begin with. But we got to get him in because Linnell's going to need a breather from time to time, and De'Aaron's plenty good enough to manufacture ways to get him the football.
If I could follow up one more, you have 4 true freshmen, at least on the depth chart: Wilder, Oliver, Mulba, and can't remember
And
Braylon.
Well, and you can add you can add De'Aaron as
Okay.
5 now.
So you have these guys. Anything stick out from them that went into the decision to do what they saw in camp, what you saw from them in camp that led you to put them in that position?
Well, I think, let's look at the programs that they came from. Colin Wilder, Katy High School. Ed Oliver, Westfield High School. Braylon Jones, John Tyler. De'Aaron King, Manville. And then Mulba, their program is a winning program now for the first time in a very, very long time. So you want to talk about guys that are college ready, go look at where they went to high school and go look at how well they were trained in high school, and you'll find that those 5 guys, they're great players too, don't get me wrong. I mean, not everybody, from great programs are ready, but you couple the fact that they're really good players and having come from such proud programs, it's a little bit easier maybe to see how prepared they are to play.
Tom, last year you take over the program, so there was the rebranding, building it up. I mean, initially you were going to challenge students in a good way to come out and support the program. There was so much going on top of trying to build a winning program and change the culture. Is it, I don't want to say easier, but I mean, is the workload more manageable this year, or because the bar was raised, it never stops for you?
I think the second part is true. Yeah, because we've raised the bar so high, and our internal expectations of the culture around here, not just with the football program, but the whole athletic department, the student body, the campus, the city of Houston, that, what's the saying? We've created a monster, and you got to feed the monster. And that's okay. We continue to do that. I mean, who would have ever thought, a couple years ago that you'd have over 2,000 students waiting in line since dawn to get a ticket to a football game at the University of Houston, and so that's really, really cool, we as a program, our players and our coaches, I tell our guys all the time, we don't give very many pats on the back in this program. Our players especially, they get 5 pats on the back after their 4 bowl wins, and then when they graduate, and that's about it. Other than that, we're gonna keep pushing them. But there was a split second there yesterday when I saw, or I guess it was Saturday, when I saw the kids out there lining up, basically tailgating, close to 2,000 of them. That I was like, man. This is kind of gratifying to know that in 20 months, this is what we've been able to kind of culture on campus that we've been able to foster.
Tom, you touched on a couple guys a moment ago. Any other lingering health concerns you have going into this game for your team?
Yeah, we don't have an H.
I mean, aside from that position, any other notable positions that you have injury concerns going into Saturday?
We'll see how Will Noble does today. He's been out a good 10 days with the concussion. So today he's fully cleared to practice. He can either make me worry a lot more or ease my mind a lot more, depending on how he practices today. And I'm trying to think. We'll have to have a bit of a shell game if a corner goes down, from the standpoint that Brandon Wilson will go then from nickel to corner, which then would make Garrett Davis our nickel, which then would put Terrell Williams in the game. So it's not as easy as, hey, a corner goes down, the number 2 corner go in. There's a lot of moving parts to that equation. But beyond that, I feel pretty good.
Tom, in terms of the H receiver, and talking with Greg earlier in camp, it seemed like he was really taking on a personal leadership role and trying to get those guys ready and trying to work with Rashad and Marquez. And how have you seen him respond now with those 2 guys out, and really maybe trying to amplify his efforts in order to get the next guys ready?
Well, yeah, I think the one guy is De'Eric. Those guys hit it off like that when De'Eric first got here. We do a Big Brother program where we pair the newcomers with a veteran, and Greg was his big brother, and they were attached at the hip, and very similar guys. De'Eric's very cerebral, very football smart. So I think Greg, once Linnell's a veteran, and not that we don't have to worry about Linnell. Well, we always will, but we got to accelerate this growth process here for De'Eric for this season, for him to provide us, some of the things that Linnell can't provide us. And I've seen Greg do a really good job with De'Eric, kind of taking him under his wing and making sure that he's doing everything he can to get De'Eric ready. Good? Oh. How many pizzas did I buy? Couple hundred. I don't know. I just, yeah, pretty much. That's a heck of a pizza party. It's a heck of a bill, too. No, yeah, charge it to winning. No, that one got charged a Herman family winning account. What else? We good? Thank you.